All right, we're live on a Sunday evening. We'll be relatively quick on this one. It is kind of a final season preview. Anything that we felt we didn't hit on or need to revisit from the position previews, and just kind of a general idea as to what we see out there. Maybe some loose grouping of competitiveness or varying levels of competitiveness on your schedule. We'll talk about that. As always, want to thank all of our sponsors that help get us through not just the off season but the season preview series. Charlie Park, all of the For the Table restaurant properties are fantastic. Want to remind people of the dueling pianos at the end of the month here. Want to thank great people Congruity, Matt Lewis and his team have been fantastic for us and fantastic for many other Seminole owned businesses, and always Chad and his team at Legendary Home Loans. So great support for the Nolecast, and Bud, let's jump into it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Let's do this thing. Also, we'll note, I believe Sonone and the guys are going to go live at 9. So head on over to their channel right after we get done. I think we'll get done well before that. All right. So depth chart came out today. I am using StreamYard's new features to be able to share a little bit wider screen. So this is the depth chart that Florida State released with game notes in advance of the Mike Norvell press conference. I don't think that our snap count draft is significantly different in this, in at least not in many ways, right? I mean, the only one obviously is, we bid on Hakeem fairly aggressively, and Hakeem is, shown as sort of an or backup there. But obviously, if you've read practice reports, you just haven't read Hakeem's name, so can and should read into that. And as far as the very short term, I still expect him to have a real role on this team, this year, and not like way in the future. So. Any other real takeaways here? Like looking at this, I generally like it. For a team that lost so much to the NFL, this is pretty solid.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think there's no real surprises here. In my opinion, um, Hakeem has the potential to be number one on any depth chart. Should he, continue to be able to practice and do all the things that he can uniquely bring to you in this offense. No, I mean, if you've been listening, I think it's not just to us or anybody else, but there's been a good competition at right guard. We'll continue to see how that happens between Keandre and TJ Ferguson, and then no, I mean, from a defense perspective, I mean, there's nothing here that I would not have chosen. I mean, maybe can you be slightly surprised that there's an or next to Blake Nicholson's name? I'm not really. It's not, he went in a snap count draft relatively as to what we think of. There's only so many snaps for a linebacker to get in today's football. I don't think that's a surprise by any means.
Do you think Kevin Knowles with the or, but also being listed over little, is kind of a head nod to the guy that's been in the program for a long time?
I do. I also think that Knowles has had a good 10 days of practice recently. I mean, he's closed out camp well. Um, Little, Little's been, to my knowledge, to what I've seen, has been live for a while, but there was a period in spring and the beginning of fall that he, maybe wasn't able to participate every day. So that may have something to do with that. But no, it's about what I would have thought it would have been.
If they're both healthy, I would wager a lot that Cryer is going to play more snaps than Omar Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they both stay healthy for the full year. So like that one, Hester, but they only listed 2 deep on the D ends. And some spots they listed 3 where there's a an or, and some spots they listed 3 where there's not an or, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's maybe a little surprising. Like seeing Knowles and Devontae Brown listed where they are on the depth chart, that does make me nervous. I'm not going to lie. Devontae Brown was garbage last year at Miami. Now he's playing in a different role this year, which makes me a little bit less nauseous, right? But man, that's a guy that when you took him, I was like, okay, could be some good depth. The fact that he's still listed as an or there starting at safety is kind of concerning. But I know that they have liked him better at the safety spot than playing corner like he did for Miami. So
yeah, I mean, he has been consistent since he's been there and has played at a level that a guy that would have that. I agree with you. I mean, I guess if you want to look at there being an or, is there an or between Keziah and Cam Davis?
Yes.
It's a tiny. The ones on the left seem to be a little bit smaller. Maybe not. Maybe that's just optical illusion. But yeah, I mean, is that a surprise? I don't know. I just think it's indicative of what myself and other people have said from the first time you see that dude carry the ball practice. You're just like, oh, this is a 5'9" bowling ball that is has a nice little dead leg and is not afraid to put his foot into the ground and run right over you either. Yeah, Cam Davis, that'll be fun to watch.
Cam Davis is a stud. I mean,
Yeah.
he's really good. Let me see. In the chat, is Simmons actually left tackle too? No, I don't really no. Like I don't believe that one. I mean, I think they're encouraged by the jumps that he has made after not being able to practice last year with the medical stuff. But I think that like that's him being there is probably an acknowledgement of like, hey man, nice work. Like continue to improve. Like because I think they want him to be a starter next year if all goes well, right? So no, they would rotate some different guys around before. Like he would not be the first guy up if a tackle went down. I'm very confident in that. Let me see what else here. Chat's asking about Duke Cooper. I mean, he's a depth piece, right? If you watch the snap count draft, I don't know what he went for, but it wasn't a ton, right? I mean, I think he's a useful guy for you. But have you seen this abominable snowman comment? This is great. Mike Norvell is an anagram for killer venom, which is so badass. I'm adding a full win to my season predict. I think that's right. Uh-oh. I lost you. You're muted, looks like. There you go. You're better now.
One day I'll figure out how to do this podcasting thing. Yeah. Awesome anagram. Not exactly parallel, but made a comment about it being like Falcon cool when we all used to type Dalvin Cook 10 years ago, and our phones, for whatever reason, would transform it into that.
That was amazing. For people that are complaining about receiver, we've known what it was going to be since Destin Hill got hurt. Like it's not a strength of the team. It's probably so far the worst position on the team. You got to have the best position. You got to have a worst position. Receiver's clearly the worst position on this team so far through spring and fall camp. Just kind of is what it is, right? I will note some people wanted FSU to go out and get Elijah Badger, who transferred to Florida. And I read the practice report on Swamp 24/7, and he is running fifth, right now, including behind a guy who was dead last in the SEC in yards per route run. So maybe a better pass on that one than some people realized. I mean, maybe just get up speed. Who knows? Like, I'm not going to say the guy can't play at all, but it was slim pickings in the portal for sure for receivers. So injuries are not turned off in life, unfortunately, and Hill going down was a fairly big deal. Let me see. Will McCoy and Moore play? We certainly drafted him in the snap count draft, like they will. I don't think they're going to play a lot week one, if I had to guess, because you're going over there, you're trying to get the win, right? Like let's not have guys running wrong routes. Oh, cool, man. Did that work?
No, it didn't.
I will put that in the show notes.
Yep.
By the way, so
I just think that with McCoy, he's going to end up playing more than I would have guessed 2 weeks ago. Part of that's just opportunity that's created itself. Part of it is just like, dude's just a natural football player and has done well with, creating some some places where he's going to get involved. In my opinion, I think he's just like. When you guys were in fourth grade or whatever at recess, did you just play ball and pick, him? Yeah, like I'm taking LaWayne McCoy with my first or second pick every time if we're at recess playing football. Like the guy's just going to be something. It'd be a lot of fun to watch.
I mean, to put it in perspective, go back to like 2022. Okay. You had like Micah Pittman, who decent college receiver, but slow, not going to be drafted. You had Johnny, who was kind of just learned how to catch and did some games and some games did not. It wasn't really playing big yet necessarily. And then he played huge against Oklahoma. And you were really excited about guys like Kentron and Darion. McCoy is a way better prospect at the same age than those guys were. And it ain't close. So I do think like the future of this receiver room is very nice. It's just you can't hit fast forward on the season. Got to go out there, got to win many games as you can with this group. So do want to thank Chad of the legendary team, 844 FSU Loan. 844 FSU Loan is the number to call. I think we're, I don't know, 570-ish, I think, as far as Nolecast loans done, which is insane. 2 of those are me, and a bunch of y'all in the chat have done as well. So definitely want to thank them. If you are in the market for a home, 844 FSU Loan is the number to call me. Want to get a little condo for game day? I don't know. Could be a good time. We will see. All right. I want to do a little schedule breakdown here. So we'll stop sharing that and not full screen that. And basically, here's the thing. I kind of broke this down into a couple categories, and you may disagree with these, and if so, I think it makes for good podcasting. If not, we can at least talk about some of the teams. Charleston Southern, I'm not going to waste time on that. I kind of love that you have that game where you do, right? It is always nice to get that against Florida. The Florida game can always go kind of squirrely, even if it's not a game that you think you're going to lose. I mean, you're currently a double-digit favorite over the Gators. Doesn't sound like their spring camp is going great, but it's always a weird game. And like athletically, they do have some athletes who can play with you. So having the Charleston Southern game before is generally nice. Obviously, like what happened to Jordan, you guys know it sucked. But you'd rather have that in a game where you could pull the guys early than not. Then I have this group called You Better Go 5-0, which is home Boston College, at Duke, Memphis, Cal, and North Carolina. I could be wrong here, but I do kind of think that, athletes, body types, where you are in the developmental cycle, the recruiting cycle, I think you're kind of above these teams, especially because a lot of them are in weird spots. So, North Carolina, they've lost Drake May, and Drake May's looked pretty damn good in the preseason. I don't think North Carolina has a quarterback, personally. They have a great schedule, but is there like a less trustworthy team to capitalize on a great schedule than Mac Brown's North Carolina team? Probably not. They lost last year as like a 24-point home favorite to Virginia. They've done kind of the same to Georgia Tech when Tech was really bad under Collins. Cal, I've been reading a lot of the practice reports. If I counted it right, they allowed 10 sacks and 45 dropbacks with the first and second team yesterday. They took 2 transfer tackles. I'm sure those guys will be helpful in some SEC games. If Jones and Peyton are healthy, I expect them to smoke those tackles off the edge and make some NFL money. Also, they have not finished a quarterback yet. Mendoza and Rogers from North Texas are still battling it out. They do have some real juice at receiver, though, I will say. And the back is like a legit stud. Jaden Ott is he's an NFL guy. And I think he would start here. So, you got to watch out for the back. You got some good receivers. That's the day Peyton and Jones, Panier's back. Let's go get it and make some money. Memphis, they're dangerous. The quarterback is probably one of the 3 or 4 best quarterbacks you will face this year, despite the fact he plays at Memphis. They got that FedEx money for NIL, so they were able to keep him, which is nice. I know he had some good teams coming at him, but defensively, I have to see it. They really gave up a lot of points to teams last year they probably should not have. Duke, I think, is probably the worst team in the ACC, but will be in the running for it. They lost their coach to Texas A&M. They had the problem when Duke goes bottom up. They can't really portal from everywhere. They have to portal from very, very good academic FCS schools from the Ivy League. It's not easy to get portal kids into Duke. So, all their linemen they took, I'm a little sketch to me. And in Boston College, you get it at home. You get the extra day because of the travel. They have a new scheme, a new coach. They're going to make Castellanos pass it around a little more. They should have your attention because they almost beat you last year. Granted, a lot of the team had the flu, but though that's kind of my like. If you don't go 5-0 against this group, something is seriously off the rails here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's really a whole lot. I mean, UNC being in that group may surprise some people. I would have been overzealous, but let me see how I feel much better about SMU than maybe I did 6 weeks ago or so. So, maybe UNC and SMU could live in another subcategory between these next two groups that we're going to talk about. But no, I mean, I just think look, there's things that we as a fan base look at and go, oh, I'm a little nervous about this position group or that, and I understand it. And yeah, you've got one or two that probably aren't as highly ranked within the conference that you would think you are, but like on the whole, to your point, the depth and the pieces along the line of scrimmage are just in a place that I think ultimately this should be a pool of which you should be able to navigate.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to your point on that, if UNC was on the road and SMU was in Tallahassee, I would have flipped these. Right. I mean, let's give them, 2-point, for home and road.
Right.
Like then that probably makes, what are you laying at UNC 10 and SMU becomes like I don't know, you're probably laying like 13. So that does come to our next category here, which is you need to go 2-1 or 3-0 here. Like 3-0 clearly preferred, but you need to make sure you get 2-1 out of this as you kind of build your season at a minimum. And to me, that is Georgia Tech in that kind of weird opener in Ireland. It's Florida, and it's at SMU. I think I've talked about the SMU stuff here a lot. I think they're a very well-coached team. I think Lashley knows what he's doing. I think they have a good D coordinator. They also played just so many like dead offenses last year. And when they did play teams that had real athletes on defense, they struggled a bit. I will note that it is a little weird to me that they named both quarterbacks team captains. So I'm going to have a keen eye looking out for that to see if they've actually settled on Preston Stone and just how he looks. So maybe a little foreshadowing there. I don't know, but I was like, two quarterbacks as team captains. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Florida, I mean, certainly I think that they are better than they were last year, but I mean, you're coming off Charleston Southern. They're coming off a real gauntlet that I think has to impact them as far as attrition and all that other stuff. Now, maybe they run that gauntlet. Very unlikely, in my opinion. Probably not. But we'll see. And then Georgia Tech, to me, it comes down to, is their defense improved enough to take advantage of your offensive backslide? And can your defense make them earn everything? Right? Like, I think physically you are better than they are. They're a lot more experienced in terms of returning production than you are. You got a lot more new roster pieces than Tech does. So, like, is the defense actually improved? Can they fog a mirror on defense, basically? Because if not, then I think your offense will score fine and the defense will do enough. If they actually can get stops on defense, then you're probably in a battle. What else? Oh, and then finally,
where's the line on the Tech game currently, bud? Just curious.
It's like, was it 11 and a half, 12? It may hit 10. If it hits 10 because of market movement, then I think you'll see some buyback with people taking the 10 or laying the 10 again. If it hits 10 because of injury stuff, then obviously, I don't think you would see that. And then maybe it closes 9 something, who knows? But just based on right now, it's sitting at like 11 and a half, 12, depending. Those are kind of dead numbers ish. So, and the over under is like 57, 56 ish. So,
okay.
Yeah. Somewhere in that like 35, 31 range or 35, 21 range ish is like a winning score.
Yeah. Okay.
Holding Tech to under 20 would be pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, that would be impressive. It's a good, Tech is a decent team that's got some nice offensive pieces and has some decent coaches, and building they've done well with the modern era of roster management, and they've put some nice pieces together. So interested to see what they look like after game one.
And then let me see, any record from 3-0 to 0-3 is foreseeable group. Like, these are all basically coin flip ish. I mean, you'll be favored as of now by like a field goal or 3.5 against Clemson and Tallahassee. I don't really know what number you should use for Doak for home field advantage this year. It's not 3. It's probably like, I don't know, 1.5, 2, because it's a much smaller stadium. But at the same time, it's still travel to Tallahassee. You know, there's still an aspect of home field. I know the folks that do go to the game will be really, really hyped up. At Miami and then at Notre Dame. To me, at Notre, like I could see a world in which Miami is the best team you play, but the timing of the Irish game is pretty tough, and that ain't easy for you. So if you look at it, Florida State plays consecutively here, Duke, and then you get an extra day of rest before going to Miami, and then you get North Carolina, and then you get at Notre Dame. I mean, you get the bye before Duke coming off Clemson, but like that's not super easy to go Miami, UNC, Notre Dame. Like, granted, SEC schools would be like, the hell it's not. Like, that's crazy easy, bro. What are you talking about? On his FSU schedule, like that's the toughest stretch you're going to face, and by a good bit. Meanwhile, the Irish are going to have their eyes on you because they do get a bye before you come to town, and they will have played consecutively Stanford, at Georgia Tech, Navy, by FSU, with no look ahead because you have Virginia on deck, and then Army.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting, and I don't ever want to oversell one kid or anything else, but like, obviously part of just going through camp is luck, and it's injury luck, and it's getting out of camp healthy, and to all, for anything significant, it looks like Florida State's done that. I don't, not in the injury room, I don't know everything, but just from afar, looks like Florida State's navigated this without losing, a piece for the season or something.
Norvell confirmed that today. He said,
okay, good deal.
His presser.
Again, I'm not trying to oversell this, and certainly not, taking pleasure in it, but like, of all the injuries that occurred that I think could impact Florida State's record and the team that they have to play, or some of the injuries that Notre Dame sustained. Now, as you said, it's a bye week, deep in the season. They'll have a lot of time to get ready, but losing a potential starter tackle is a big deal. So yeah, we'll have to see how Notre Dame handles that.
I agree, and like, you don't know how the true freshman that they're currently planning to run out there will play. Now, if he actually is that good, that will be his 9th game of the season. So maybe he is the goods. But I think right now, next week, even on that day, I'm pretty willing to roll the dice with Patrick Payton and Marvin Jones Jr. Against a true freshman, personally. Even if he is good, it's still a true freshman. And they kind of lit us up on cover 3 because they're like, oh, well, the last 3 true freshmen that started left tackle for Notre Dame were all first-round picks. I was like, yeah, but here's the problem. This kid ain't starting because he earned it over the guy who was supposed to start. The guy supposed to got hurt.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's just that's crazy logic, bro.
I mean, look, would you rather have a first-round pick than not? Yes, of course. But those guys that were later drafted as first-round picks, they weren't that as a freshman. I mean, you're still talking about a guy getting used to playing against men for the first time in his career. I'm not really worried about what that guy looks like as after his junior year. I mean, what's the guy look like against Florida State this year? Yeah.
Clemson, there's certainly a world in which they're like, I'm fully believing that the receivers are way better than they were last year, just because they're not hurt, which is extremely important, because last year they were really, really dinged up at receiver. I do think that they have an argument for the best offensive line in the ACC. I don't think it's like, far and away. It's probably Miami, them, or Florida State. One of the 3 most likely will be the best offensive line group in the conference. I don't know how much I buy into Cade Klubnik. It's logical to think that they will be better with the second year. under Riley the OC, but how much I don't know. They got to stay healthy too, and they've had some injuries in camp that are not long term apparently as far as the DBs, but I don't think they have amazing depth on defense like they once did at all spots. They used to just really, really be stacked when relative to everybody else when you couldn't take anybody in the portal. Now that you can take guys in the portal, like not like Grady Kelly's great shakes, but if he's like DT5 for you,
yeah,
it's just a nice guy to have to be able to sub in when somebody sprains an ankle. Or like maybe scared, like not even a real sprain, maybe just like, hey, cool, like let's go check him out, throw Kelly in. Just a guy that can play. And they definitely don't have a bunch of 23-year-old guys as backups who have played. I mean, that to me is significant, and we'll see how they look, right?
Do you remember the Kevin Garnett interview after he won with Boston, to where you just kind of anything's possible?
Yeah.
Yes, that is my clip, and that is my summary of Clemson this year. I mean, one of the better rosters in college football, I believe. Maybe the last, well, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe the last time Clemson's able to say that wholeheartedly. Well, maybe I'm wrong, at least in the immediate future. And I think anything's possible, man. You just don't know what's true, what's not true. Every program has the best offseason it's ever had, and, the kids are closer than ever, and for almost every program, there's, whispers of, well, there may be a little dysfunction here or whatever else. We'll see. I think anything's possible with Clemson, and they'll be, we have as tried and true and loyal ACC fans that we all are, we have two of the more entertaining, massive variance programs in the country this year with Clemson and Miami. So that'll be fun to watch.
Miami, I will say the people who are usually like the straight shooters on Miami, who I follow, are very high on this team. Like the people who are like, yeah, I think 7.5 wins feels about right. They'll probably go 8-4.
I mean, the roster's nuts, man.
Yeah.
Incredible roster.
They push the chips in for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll see. Like, I would say if you just kind of match it up, two of the things I don't like is I think Miami and Clemson, their biggest weakness is the secondary. Can you actually exploit that? I don't know, right? Like as of today, I would say no. In a month, in 2 months, in 10 weeks, possibly. So to circle back, this is why it's really important. Like the Kevin Garnett group where anything is possible is literally like, you could tell me they go 3-0 or 0-3 against this group. And like, yeah, very, very possible. Like, I think these rosters are all close. Who stays healthy, who gets the bounces, who coaches well, that type of thing. Just because Mario routinely makes bad coaching decisions every year does not mean he makes them every single game, which you can't rely on that to win you the ball game. Although if you're Georgia Tech, you literally did. So you got to go 5-0 against that 5-0 group, because then that gets you bowl eligible. And it's really important to go 2-1 against that need to go 2-1 group, because then that basically makes your floor 8-4 if you can pull that off, right? Because you got to know in the back of your head, like, there is a chance that they go 12-0. There's also a chance that they go 0-3 against that group. And then if you screwed around and you slipped up against that kind of, SMU, Florida, Georgia Tech, maybe you want to put North Carolina in there, that force them. Then that's how you kind of get your bad outcomes, So take care of business against the teams that you should physically overwhelm.
Yeah, the SMU game feel better than did if we had been doing this, January, July 1st or July 15th. Just think that, you're in a good place from a roster with how that matches up. And, they had a couple of defections that maybe are challenging to fill. Kind of, historically, I don't know if the numbers bear this out. To me, it feels sometimes you get a little bit of a strange result when you're first game in a conference, first this, first that.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'll be fascinated to see how many Florida State fans there are in that stadium. I mean, it's a lot of Florida State fans are traveling for that. It'll be an interesting event. That's not a Friday night game, is it?
The SMU game?
Yeah.
No, it's a Saturday game.
Saturday. Okay. So,
It's an easy flight though. Like it's easier to get to Dallas than it is Tallahassee in
well,
many cases.
Dallas is one of the 3 places that you can go directly from Tallahassee too.
Look
So,
at that.
Charlotte, Atlanta, Dallas, and whatever, I guess Miami. So there you go. Many options when you go to the Tallahassee airport, I can assure you. Yeah, Gabe Fertitta will be the on-field offensive line coach, heavily involved in practice. Uh, I don't think you'll see a massive drop off there, or really any kind of significant drop off from. Most of this stuff is most of the work's done by the time those kids run out on the field. So
Completely. This is an interesting question from Jay Bartlett in the chat. Also, we got a guy in the chat who thinks that if I had advocated harder for FSU to make the playoff last year, it could have changed the hearts and minds of the committee on that day.
well,
Apparently.
I can, yeah,
I don't know how we square that with the committee being rigged. So let me know. But
yeah. I mean,
Jay Bartlett
I
wants to
can
know,
I can assure you, if I thought that trying to persuade you would have made a difference, that yeah, every effort would have been made.
best coaches we will face: Georgia Tech, SMU, Notre Dame. I would say best coaching staffs. Generally, yeah. I mean, Notre Dame got Denbrock back from LSU. I thought he did a great job. Al Golden's the Notre Dame DC, for guys who don't know. He's done a great job with that defense. The Irish also, I don't know that Freeman has been like a plus on game days for them necessarily. They did have 10 men on the field against Ohio State, remember? And that was kind of insane. But I think Lashley's a pretty good coach, actually. Like they seem to not beat themselves a whole lot. I do think Key is probably a pretty good coach. I mean, we got to see if he got his defensive hires right and if they have the personnel to even make it matter. But I mean,
good coach, good recruiter, and you've got to be a little bit of a unique piece to unlock the potential that's there in that Georgia Tech job. And he may be as a former player, very much what they need. There's only so many people that will have what's necessary to succeed in that job, and I do think you have to fully lean into it and fully love it, and that doesn't just mean creative hashtags and other stuff. It's really being about it, and it'd be interesting to see. I think he's got a bright future at Georgia Tech.
I think the clear answer here though is Dabo Swinney, the guy that has multiple national titles. Like I read this, like this doesn't feel right, and I pulled up the schedule and I was like, oh.
Yeah, I thought maybe he's just thinking of that group. I mean, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And I do think Bill O'Brien's a pretty good head coach. He was not a very good GM in his NFL career, but as a coach, I think he is pretty good. What he did with Penn State in the aftermath of all the Paterno stuff was pretty impressive.
Yeah, wildly impressive.
Before he got personnel control with the Houston Texans, I thought he was pretty good. So, but yeah, I don't think it's an amazing slate of coaches that you'll face. Wilcox is actually probably a pretty good coach. It's just impossible to win at Cal. Like that's a hard job. So, I mean, let's roll. Let's do our 3 most likely records in order. We usually do this, kind of ping ponging back and forth. What do you got?
2-loss regular season.
Okay. I am also at 10-2 as my most likely record. I just save the explanations. Let's ping pong it.
Yeah. I think 11-1 is more likely than 9-3, but
I'm 9-3 is
detach myself. Yeah.
No, I mean that's why we do the show, right? I think 9-3 is more likely than 11-1. What do you got for third?
Yeah, 9-3.
Yeah.
Oh,
I want you to go 12-0.
12-0. Yeah. I would. We'll see.
I've got 8-4 as my third most likely. So it's kind of weird how it cascaded there. I looked at my ratings and I do think there's a really big gap between FSU and a lot of those teams I read off. And I just don't see like right now, like a better team than some of the very top teams you play. So like, I think 10-2, 9-3, 8-4, but 11-1, way more likely than 7-5 actually.
Yeah.
So. If the passing game improves,
yeah, passing game improves, and I mean, what's one of your questions? One thing that could make you feel dramatically different one way or
yeah,
another? Yeah.
yeah. Like okay, so in both directions. All right,
Okay.
one thing that if you told me, hey, this is going to happen, you're
Yeah.
going to feel a lot better. One thing you told me it's going to happen. All right.
Mine's boring, and it's the same. Tell me what the health of my tackles are.
Yeah, that's a huge one. Since I can't steal that, although I definitely did owe it. Hakeem.
Yeah.
Like, do you have somebody who scares a defense? You know, somebody who an NFL scouts kind of practice, like, oh, that guy at receiver. Yeah.
One more for me, real, in how this team is its best. Like, we look back on it and we say, "Ooh, Earl Little, that was one of the most important pickups." Or Kevin Knowles outplays him, but
Yeah.
you get really good play from the nickel position because I think, not to, hey guys, Fintrell Cypress and Az Thomas are good players. That's great commentary. But yeah, no, you're not going to have Jarian out there again. But if Earl Little or Knowles or whoever it is that ends up taking the majority of those snaps ends up playing really, really well, then sky's the limit for this defense.
That makes a lot of sense to me. You will face some good slots for sure. Like Memphis's slot is like pretty good. Cal's got some shifty guys. Even though I don't love Kevin Knowles, you got to like having somebody who has played a lot of ball there. Like at least it's not some true freshman you're throwing out. So we will see. Let me see. Is that it?
Yeah,
840,
Kevin. I
man.
just think confidence is a hard thing to quantify. That's some of the intangibles that we try to stay away from on this podcast. But yeah, I mean, I think you very clearly during a stretch of time looked at a guy who, whether it was injury or whatever else, just lost a little bit of confidence in himself, and he's certainly had it at practice. And we'll just everybody will get a chance to reevaluate what Kevin Knowles looks like, and hope he has a great year.
I agree. That'd be fantastic if he does. Yeah, I think this team, like, I think they'll be in the playoff race pretty deep into the season. Whether that means staying alive for the ACC, or I guess you really can't be alive for the playoff if you're not alive for the ACC because it's lesser included. Like, you're not going to be an at-large if you're not at least alive to win the league. But like, to me, Vegas has them basically even money to make the ACC championship game. I think if you go out and get DJU as opposed to rolling with Brock, you want to be contending for that ACC title game deep into the season, which means you're contending for that playoff thing. So if they stay healthy, I'm going to use making it Charlotte as kind of like my benchmark. Like, did you get there? If you got there, that means you're a pretty damn good team. And if you don't win it, that means maybe Clemson really at all click for them, or Miami or something like that. They're kind of push all the chips in year. Maybe that means they really finally did click. But at least you gave them, like, if you made it, it means you had a good enough team to give them a real obstacle. You didn't just give it to them. Mm-hmm. Cool, man. What else we got?
Let's see. Anything from the position groups that stands out that you'd want to go back and revisit ever so quickly? I mean, we already kind of organic.
Jaylen Brown is the one I think that we probably needed to talk more.
Yeah, Brown and McCoy.
I am still hopeful that, like, maybe Kentron or Darion can step up, and just maybe one of them can be a gamer or something when the light's on. Because they do need kind of that bigger body out there. Jaylen Brown is somebody I'm hopeful for. Very, very fast. But, man, he is skinny. And, like, when I'm thinking, like, when you play these better teams, when some of these better DBs, they get their hands on them, like, that's a concern of mine. But if we were retroactively doing the position previews, we would talk about Jaylen Brown more, wouldn't we?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, quite a bit. The chat says Spann. I'll believe the Spann stuff when he does it in games. Sorry. Like, practice and games. You got to practice well to play in games, but practicing well does not mean you will play well in games. So, maybe you can. That'd be cool. I've never seen it in a game. Oh, that kickoff was nice against Duke.
Kickoff was nice against Duke, and the throwback pass against LSU. It ended up being like what, plus 18 yards or whatever. But if you go back and look at the effort made and the
That was great.
athleticism is friggin' nuts. So yeah.
Exactly. All right. I guess pretty much it, man. We got out. Guys, go check out that Knowles 24/7 channel. They do a great job as well.
Appreciate all the support. See a lot of familiar names in chat. This is it for the prediction. So made our way through another one. Headed over to Ireland later this week. Looking forward to it. Continue to dialogue with Bud as to what, if anything, is possible for the instant reaction. May just be that Bud's carrying the torch that night, and we can do something on Sunday to look back at it. And
all right, the chat wants us to predict the ACC championship game and the winner. I will go FSU over Miami in a revenge game because I think you're going to lose down there and beat them in Charlotte. If I have to make like a specific prediction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's where I was going to be. Florida State, if you can't do that, something wild. I'm living in big variance world for Clemson, maybe not positive. Florida State plays Georgia Tech again in Charlotte. There's a
look at that
total curveball. No, but I do think you're going to end up playing Miami twice this year. So we'll see. We'll see what we'll see if the roster on paper looks like that on Saturday, and if it does, I think that's well within statistical likelihood.
Of the 7 teams that I think you could play, like that are like the 7 best odds to make it. I think the team I would want to play is the Hokies. They got a better pass rush than they do run stopping. You played them last year when they were first starting to kind of shift to drones. I don't know that like a whole bunch of QB run stuff is going to be great against this defense, and they would be getting there basically because of their schedule. So, yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I will see you for the Georgia Tech preview.
All right, dude. Enjoyed it as always.
See you, man.